Hey everyone, happy Sunday to you. I hope all is well. Great job on your DBs on a treatment setting. For those that are in both courses, you know these classes right now are really hitting stride with each other, right? And the treatment setting seems to be the theme. And I'll tell you, is I have a lot of experience with the treatment settings. I worked at a treatment center for about 8.5 years, and I work with treatment centers almost daily today, both as a therapist and an interventionist. I'm very well with how they work. And as I've encouraged you previously, I would encourage you again today to be sure to get to know them, tour them, get to know the business development reps. I think everyone's DB kind of alluded to the same thing, that they find value in it in some way. But also what I like to hear in those DBs was everyone alluded to the fact that you got to find what's best for each client. Not everything works for everyone, and I tell you, I couldn't agree with that more. That said, the treatment landscape is very similar across the board. You read a website, everybody's going to tell you what they do different, right? But most of them are 12-step based. So this week, as we're going to be talking about smart recovery, where would you send a client for that? You got to know who does that, and there are treatment centers that offer that as an option as well. That said, look, my thoughts are this. My experience shows me that the value of an inpatient treatment, above all else, is the structured, secured environment away from the substance, right? One of you mentioned detox. I'd be curious to know your thoughts. Is detox treatment? It's a form of treatment, I think. When we say the word treatment, though, that's not really what we're referring to, as most professionals, right? My opinion, for what it's worth, and it's just my opinion, so let me preface that with it's just Professor Caldwell's opinion. I think if there's a problem great enough that you need a detox, think about what we're saying here. You are detoxifying from a substance. That's not drinking a little too much. That's not eating a little too many benzos. That's or opiates, or it sounds funny to say, it's not using just a little bit of heroin or a little bit of cocaine. Like, you're talking about a detoxification from the human body that's significant to be at that place. In my opinion, if the person needs a detox, they most certainly need a residential stay. Now, are there exceptions to that thought? Sure, of course. If somebody's done 15 residential treatments already, maybe you consider a detox in an outpatient at that point. I don't know. That's where everything's really unique, as you guys alluded to each person. And we don't want to get in the habit of throwing one person in the box. Say, well, you've done treatment this many times, inpatient won't do you any good. How do we know? Right? Let's talk with our clients, see where they're at. Look, you never cross the same river twice, right? Or you never step in the same river twice. I don't care if they've done it 17 times. They may be at a different space this time, but that's up for you as a clinician and that client to discuss and figure out what the best options are. Finances certainly play a role. Time plays a role. Is it more helpful than hurtful if you've got to leave your family again, and finances and all the things, right? So there's a lot going on there, but my opinion is, if there's a detox needed, you probably need some residential, right, in some way. Again, exceptions to that for sure, but we're talking about maybe a first time in treatment. So, look, not everybody gets it. And I heard one or two of you say, or I read one or two of you say something about you have to be willing, and I'm going to challenge that too. Because yes, at some point, or you have to want to, is I think of what I read. And that's this idea we have, and you're not wrong, right, I would say. My opinion also, my experience, I got a lot of opinions apparently. My thoughts are, though, that you don't have to want to do anything as long as you're willing to go, right? At least in the beginning. Yeah, at some point you have to want to live a changed lifestyle for it to be sustainable. But in the beginning, I don't think I've ever met anybody that wanted to go to treatment. Not the first time, maybe second, third, fourth. Yeah, I want to get in there and make some changes, sure. But in the beginning, I've yet to meet one person that really wanted to go. I know I never wanted to get sober. I wanted the consequences to stop. I never wanted to quit using or drinking, right? And that's almost all my clients. I would say 99%, truthfully. And really, that's probably being generous. I'd almost be willing to bet 100%. But all that said is nobody ever wanted to go the first time, right? It's a lot we're asking these guys to do to make a change. But great job on your DBs. I really love the conversation about treatment. And what I really love the most about you guys is your ability to see, hey, we need to individualize this. Like, not every place is going to be a good fit. And remember, they're all good places. Well, okay, 95% of them are good places, right? Some of them are just not good places. But that's why you tour. That's why you get to know. I was just in San Antonio 2 weeks ago looking at a place, right? It's why you tour. You know the people, the philosophies. Some are aesthetically better than others. Some are, some have amenities others don't have, and some are straight up big book. We're gonna work the steps with you while you're in treatment. Others are, we're not even gonna do a meeting here. You're gonna go out for those, and we're gonna work on clinical things here. Some say they focus on trauma, which is another thing. But anyway, you get the idea. But great job. You guys are really just doing a marvelous work in here. Marvelous. Who says marvelous? You guys are doing wonderful work in here. And I'm real proud of you guys thus far at the halfway point. So that brings us up to this week with Smart Recovery. You got an easy couple weeks coming up after this week, right? You do your little Smart Recovery paper, and then you have spring break. And then the following week, all that's due is your DB on your summary of your paper. So it's super easy. So the next 2 weeks should be pretty sweet for you. I'm sure you're all ready for that little break. So let me tell you a little bit about Smart Recovery. So SMART is the antithesis of AA and NA and CA, right? Of typical 12-step work. Where if you remember, the 12-step philosophy is you have a disease. They follow the medical model, right? You have a disease, hijacks your brain, classifying it as the disease. You come in here, you find a higher power, you lean on these groups, you attend these groups, you do this work, this 12-step model of work, and then you make amends to people, and that's part of this process, and then you give back by working with others, right? And that's their philosophy, and it's a great philosophy. Again, I've mentioned many times I use 12-step work or 12-step ideals and philosophies for everyone. Even if they don't have an addiction, that's just, I do a 12-step integrative model of counseling. Again, addiction or not. So I thoroughly believe in that model of living. That said, Smart Recovery, I also believe in that model of living, and it's the antithesis of typical 12-step work, meaning it doesn't believe it's a disease. They side more with it's a choice and it's a thinking error, right? And they use cognitive behavioral therapy as a base point. They actually use REBT, rational emotive behavioral therapy, as their program outline, right? And so it's a form of cognitive behavioral therapy. Remember, cognitive behavioral therapy, and this is important because this is one of your two theories to choose from later in the I guess that's my bad. That's next. That's 1305. But cognitive behavioral therapy says, in a nutshell, that if I change my thinking, it changes my behavior, changing the way I feel, right? Well, so this is what they do here. They use these type of worksheets and to challenge your irrational thinking, replace it with rational thought. They do have groups. Obviously, you're going to go to one. They're mostly online. There's a couple in the Houston area, but since COVID, they've all but shut down, honestly. So, but they don't believe as heavily in the group like AA does or NA does. AA and NA want you there every day. They think that's the power. And I buy into that too, right? But also, by very nature of its name, SMART is an acronym that stands for self-management and recovery training. They believe you can do this work on your own. They don't care if you have a higher power. So whether you have God or not or anything else, they don't care. They're very quick to tell you, use it if you have it. Use what you have. You just don't need it to do this type of work. You can do this work on your own. And I find that to be true. And another difference is they don't do the labels. They don't do alcoholic, addict. So I love that, right? They steer clear of all of that. Now, I've taken their training. Here's another difference is their meeting facilitators are not just members of Smart Recovery. They're people that have taken trainings from them. I took their training. I would encourage all of you to take their training. I think they give student discounts for like $50 or something. It's like, I don't remember, 4, 12, 6 hours, something. I don't know. It's not many. And it's worth every penny at the student discount if they're still doing that, because it just teaches, it'll help you be a better counselor. I don't do Smart Recovery meetings. That was never my goal. But I love cognitive behavioral therapy, and it just enhanced that. As a young counselor, I would encourage you all to take that training. So everyone that leads a meeting is trained, and you'll see very clearly if you do take the training that they tell you we do not bash other programs. We work together where we can, yet you're going to find potentially in a meeting, people will be people, well, AA didn't work for me, so AA's bad. And A didn't work for me, so this is the only thing that works. And that may be true for that person. As we were referring to earlier with individualizing care, right? Great. Remember, they're all good programs. Every one of them. SMART, AA, NA, CA, AAA, MBA, all of them are good programs, right? They're just not always a good fit for everyone, right? That's all. That doesn't make them bad. One doesn't have to be bad for another to be good. SMART doesn't have to be bad for AA to be good, or AA doesn't have to be bad for SMART to be good. They're all good, right? So I'm going to encourage you to go in there with an open mind, listen to what they have to say. AA is another big difference that's startling for people who are familiar with 12-step recovery is there's no crosstalk in AA. It's frowned upon. It's rude. It's all the things. You come into SMART and they encourage side conversations. So there's a lot of differences, right? But there's a lot of similarities as well at the end of the day. AA tells you acceptance is the answer to all my problems. And I believed that the second I heard it. It just made sense to me. Now, how do I get there? This is where these two programs can collide and be a superpower, so to speak, for someone. I use them all the time with people, right? AA is I'm just saying AA, it can be NA, CA, whatever, 12-step model. AA is a foundation and support, right? You have that, it feeds the higher power, the faith piece, the spiritual piece, if you will. It also has the community. I mean, they have, I think last I read, there was like 2,800 meetings a week in this city. They're everywhere. All the time. There were 2 or 3 24-hour clubs. Like, they're everywhere. That support. I needed that community myself. That doesn't mean my client does. But I needed that community. I found great value in that. But they never could get me where I wanted to go as far as these things. When I say acceptance, I will fast track me if it's the answer to all my problems. And they just said, keep coming back. Now, eventually I got what they were saying over some years. But some of these smart recovery tools, and by tools, I mean these worksheets, these CBT worksheets, they can have the potential for me to break down my irrational thinking, give me rational thought, and put me in a place of acceptance in that moment. It goes hand in hand if people will look past their own biases for, these things. And it's super important as clinicians we do that. So when you take the multicultural counseling course, you'll really hone in on your own bias, whatever. I think you get what I'm saying there. It's so important. We're always looking at those. So yeah, I look forward to reading your smart recovery papers. And if you do your DB, then you got 2 weeks off. If you don't, that's okay too. It's not due for 2 weeks after this paper. So you got a little breather here. Enjoy that time. Guys, like always, I look forward to reading them. And as always, if I can be of help, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.